What is up everyone, how's it going? Hope you're keeping well and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Game week 11, what can I say about it? Lord above, 14 seasons I've played this game and I haven't seen a game week like that. An absolutely crazy game week. I had everything, the only thing it didn't have is returns. Before we get into today's video, 70% of my viewers aren't actually subscribed to the channel, so if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button below. I'm currently on the road to 5k subs, trying to get there before Christmas. So if you are watching this video and are not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button and support the channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I fared out in Game Week 11 and we'll also be looking at my transfer plans and team selection ahead of Game Week 12. Keep an eye out at the end of the video also for my weekly captaincy pick, and with the nights getting darker, winter's here, I've had to start getting creative, so stay tuned for that later on in the video. Right, that's the intro out of the way, let's get into the video. So looking at my Game Week 11 review, it was an absolutely shocking game week for my own team and the majority of FPL managers, with 9 out of my 11 starting players blanking, and it meant I scored 25 points for the game week. As I said in my intro, this is my 14th season playing FPL and I've honestly never seen a game week like this one. Everything that could have went wrong, went wrong. Starting off with the captaincy, Erling Haaland was subbed off at half time after picking up an injury against Bournemouth, and with him being unable to return in the first half, he came away with a blank and with 2 points from the armband. This game against Bournemouth at home was a game where Haaland was meant to have hauled massively, so when I checked live score at half time, to see him being hauled off with that injury, it was a massive shock to the system, especially as a non-Salah captainer. In another twist to the tail of this game week 11, Mo Salah then drew a blank against Luton in a game where he was meant to have hauled massively, so he only came away with 2 points, and that meant the two most captain players of the game week both drew a blank. To sum up the rest of the game week and to show how poorly things played out, Tsimikas was left on the bench for the Luton game and he only made a late cameo to get a 1 point return. Matty Cash couldn't even make 60 minutes against Forest after picking up a shoulder injury, and Saka, Son, Diaby and Watkins all drew a blank. To be fair to Son, he was pretty unlucky not to have returned after scoring an offside goal when he was just a whiskers offside. There was also a few positive things to note, albeit very little, with my new signing Matoma picking up an assist late on, and he also picked up 1 bonus point for a 6 point return. Playing Guehi over Dan Burn was also the correct decision, as Palace came away with a clean sheet and Guehi came away with 5 points. Fair enough, Newcastle did pick up a clean sheet against Arsenal, but Dan Burn picked up an injury just after half time, so he only came away with 1 point. These Matoma and Guehi returns felt like massive hauls in a game week where returns were hard to come by. All in all, with those two players only returning for me, I only managed to score 25 points in the game week, which was a very, very disappointing score. I'll be very glad to see the back of Game Week 11, and I think most FPL managers will feel the same. The poor returns also meant I managed to get another red arrow, and I'm now sitting at 920k overall. Let's try and forget about Game Week 11 and shift our focus towards planning for Game Week 12, so hopefully let's get back on the right track and get some green arrows. Let's see how we're shaping up ahead of the Game Week 12 deadline. So before we get into my own Game Week 12 team selection, let's have a look at the clean sheet odds ahead of the weekend's games, and there's no surprise to see Arsenal top the charts with their home fixture against Burnley. It's also some decent viewing for my own team, with Liverpool and Aston Villa ranking in the top 5 for the chance of a clean sheet, and Crystal Palace and West Ham aren't too far behind them, so it's good viewing all round for my 4-man defence. Hopefully I can see some nice returns in defence after some very disappointing returns in Game Week 11. With Dan Burn set to be sidelined for the next couple of weeks, and if you are on the market for a defender, a Crystal Palace defender, or if you can stretch to an Arsenal defender, is the route I'd recommend. Looking at predicted points for Game Week 12, Mo Salah tops the charts with Liverpool's home fixture against Brentford. It's also very good viewing for my own team, with Salah, Saka, Matoma, Haaland and Son all making the top 5, so hopefully I'll see some returns this game week. So between Instagram and Twitter, I get a lot of DMs every week, so this is a new segment in my weekly videos where I'll be answering the most common questions I get asked. Starting off with Tsimikas, so I've got a lot of questions asked about him this week about whether or not to keep him after his benching against Luton. All I can say is definitely keep him. I expect him to come back into the starting 11 against Brentford this weekend, so keep him in your team. I was actually very surprised to have been asked this question a lot, but if you have Trippier in your team, he's an easy keep. He's returned in 6 out of his last 7 games, and out of these 6 returns, 3 of them were double-digit hauls. Newcastle do have some tricky upcoming fixtures, but as Trippier showed at the weekend, he's well able to return in these tricky games where he got 9 points against Arsenal at the weekend. Even at his price point, he's an easy keep. Dan Burn injured his back against Arsenal at the weekend, so he's now set to be sidelined for the next couple of weeks. So if you are in the market for a new defender, I'd be looking at Crystal Palace or Arsenal assets. Crystal Palace and Arsenal have a great run of upcoming fixtures over the next couple of games, so these games should see some clean sheets for these two teams. If you're looking at Crystal Palace assets, I'd be looking at the budget picks in Guehi or Mitchell, and then if you're able to stretch some extra money towards an Arsenal asset, I'd be going for Gabriel. Gabriel was benched against Sheffield 2 weeks ago, but he was back into the starting 11 against Newcastle last week, and I'm predicting him to keep in the starting 11 over the next couple of games. I'll keep the next one short and sweet. If you have Ward-Prowse in your team, he's an easy sell. Matoma is my favourite pick, with a great run of fixtures for Brighton over the next couple of games, especially Sheffield at home this weekend. He got his assist against Everton at the weekend, and I'm expecting a few more returns from Matoma over the next couple of games. Eze is also coming back from injury for Crystal Palace, and as I said there, Crystal Palace have a great run of fixtures over the next couple of games, which should see some returns for Eze. SAKA picked up an injury late on in the Champions League game last night against Sevilla, so he's a small doubt for the Burnley game at home this weekend. Mikel Arteta did say after the game that he assumes he'll be alright for the Burnley game, so fingers crossed that he is. Hold your transfers anyway until Friday from the press conferences, when hopefully we'll get some more information. So looking at my team for Gameweek 12, Areola lines out in goals with his home fixture against Nottingham Forest. My sub-keeper Matt Turner looks to have lost his number 1 spot for Nottingham Forest after his howler against Liverpool 2 weeks ago. That being said, Areola does have a nice run of fixtures up until Game Week 17, so don't mind playing him over the next couple of games. West Ham have only kept 1 clean sheet all season, so I really need Areola to pull up his socks, and hopefully he can come away with a clean sheet against Forest in Game Week 12. That's the goalkeeper spot sorted. Let's move on to the defence. So moving on to the defence, my 3-man defence is in a good position this weekend with my 3 defenders all facing home games. Crystal Palace and Aston Villa both face teams in the bottom 5 of the Premier League, so I'll be hopeful for some clean sheet returns from these 2 players. Tsimikas was left out of the Liverpool starting 11 against Luton last weekend, but I am expecting him to come back into the Liverpool starting 11 for the Brentford game at home this weekend, so hopefully he can get himself a clean sheet and maybe even some attacking returns. Matty Cash did go off injured against Nottingham Forest in Game Week 11 with a shoulder injury, but he returned to training earlier on this week, so I am hopeful that he'll be fine for the Fulham game this weekend. Hopefully he can get himself a clean sheet, as Villa are a lot better at home compared to their away form. Guehi then faces Everton at home this weekend also, and Crystal Palace have looked solid in defence so far this season, where they've kept 5 clean sheets so far, so hopefully Guehi can make it 6 in Game Week 12. That's the defence sorted, let's move on to the midfield. So moving on to my midfield, my 5-man midfield is in a very strong position with 4 very favourable home fixtures for Saka, Salah, Matoma and Diaby. I'll be hoping Matoma can carry on from his assist last weekend against Everton with a haul against Sheffield in what is a very favourable fixture for Brighton. Saka picked up a goal and assist last night in the Champions League, but as I said earlier on in the video, he is a small doubt for the weekend's games against Burnley, but I'll be hoping he'll be past fit, as the Burnley game at home is a game where Saka can haul massively. After his monster haul against Luton in Game Week 10, Diaby once again proved to be a disappointment against Nottingham Forest, where he drew a blank, but he's now Fulham at home up next in Game Week 12, so I'll be hoping he can get a return against a leaky Fulham defence. Villa do have some tough upcoming fixtures after Game Week 14, so if Diaby fails to return this weekend, he'll be high up in the chopping blocks and could be leaving my team sooner rather than later. Mo Salah picked up a second blank of the season against Luton last weekend after a disappointing performance, but I'm expecting him to turn things round against Brentford at home this weekend, and I'm hoping for a haul, so fingers crossed he gets one. Heung-min Son completes my 5-man midfield, away to Wolves in the early kick-off this weekend, and with some doubts around Maddison this weekend, Spurs will be relying on Son for some returns this weekend. He was very unlucky not to have returned against Chelsea, even with Spurs down to 9 men, so I'm expecting him to get amongst the returns this weekend and make up for his blank in Game Week 11. That's the midfield sorted, let's move on to the 2 strikers. Erling Haaland recovered from his injury against Bournemouth to score twice in the Champions League on Tuesday night, so he should be fine for the Chelsea game at the weekend. Ollie Watkins is now blanked twice in his last 2 games, but Villa face Fulham at home up next, so I'll be expecting Watkins to be amongst the returns. That's how my starting 11 is shaping up, and my team is in very strong shape for the weekend, so I'll be looking to save my free transfer this week and have 2 free transfers for after the international break. That's how I'm lining up, so let's move on to have a look at my captaincy video and see who I'm captaining ahead of Game Week 12.
Salah for the Ironman.
Yeah, with Haaland heading to London for that away fixture against Chelsea, compared to Liverpool having that home fixture against Brentford, I'll be giving the armband to Salah. Saka was in my thoughts also with the home fixture against Burnley, but with the question marks raised around his injury, I don't want to risk it, so Salah gets the armband. That's how I'm lining up ahead of Gameweek 12, so if you've made it to the end of this video, please do give it a like, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's hit a like goal of 60 likes on this video. If you are watching this video and you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. I'm currently on the road to 5k subs, trying to get there before Christmas, so if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button below. I'm also heading to the Man United versus Luton game on Saturday, so unfortunately I won't be able to stream before the deadline on Saturday, so there'll be no Gameweek 12 deadline stream. There you have it, there's my Gameweek 12 team. Best of luck for the game week, I'll see you in the next video.